We will now be moving forward to our first panel session, which will be beginning shortly. Now, in this session, we will be exploring Malaysia's aspiration to be the digital capital of ASEAN and how it can create digital growth that can benefit the region. This session will be moderated by Dato' Fadzli Shah, Chief Strategy Officer of MDEC, and he will be introducing our speakers. Dato' Fadzli, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. And depending on where you're dialing in from, good morning or even good evening. It is my pleasure to be moderating the panel today, and I'm very excited to explore this very aspirational statement for Malaysia with three very esteemed speakers today. So before we get into things, let me just run you through how we'll run the next hour so that everyone will know where we are for the next 60 minutes. So I'll start off with an introduction of each of the speakers, after which we'll go into a presentation from Surina on MDEC and Malaysia's aspiration from an overall vision and opportunity perspective. After which Siong will come in with Huawei's perspective and the public-private collaboration needed to realize this vision. And of course, third but not least, Mr. Chow from Ernst & Young will give us a presentation on Malaysia's overall aspiration, the building blocks, the differentiators, the real hurdles and opportunities to get to where we want to be. I think then we'll be firmly within 2:30, or rather, half past the hour, and we'll have about 20-25 minutes of a Q&A session. So those of you who are tuning in via Zoom, please put up any questions you have within the Q&A section, and we'll attend to those in the second half of the session today. In the last 5 minutes, I'll give some closing summary statements, and I think we'll be glad to leave the three eminent speakers back to, I'm very sure, very, very important things that they have to do for the nation and for the industry today. So, without further ado, let me introduce the topic and then our three speakers, right? I'm sure many of you would agree that 2020 turned out as unprecedented as possible due to COVID-19. While the global disruption has brought about many economies to standstill, governments and businesses are placing digitalization right at the top of their priority list so that digitalization efforts cut across all segments and sectors. To ensure that Malaysia remains competitive in the region, Malaysia will need to explore the many facets to achieve its aspirations in becoming the regional digital capital. This topic is explored with the goal of developing a Malaysia that is digitally capable of meeting the future needs of the country, emphasizing on local digital development while also having the ability to better serve the region and beyond. So today's webinar will explore Malaysia's aspiration to be the digital capital of ASEAN and how Malaysia can create value for the digital growth in ASEAN that can benefit Malaysia, its people, and the region. So the first of our three speakers is Puan Shukri. I know her intimately because I've seen her in the hallways of MDEC, very frequently. So Surina has in fact joined MDEC in 2019, and it'll be very interesting today because she brings with her close to 2 decades of experience in what is arguably the financial capital of the world. So it'll be very interesting for us to learn and see how MDEC intends to lead the charge to make Malaysia a digital capital for the region. And after Surina, we'll have Mr. Lim Chee Siong, or more affectionately known as CS. CS is the Vice President for the Malaysia Cloud and AI Business Group of Huawei. I don't think I have to introduce anybody here on who Huawei is. It's a global tech giant, and we're honored to have them here. And thank you to Huawei for calling Malaysia its APAC home or HQ for the last 20 years. So it's a partnership that we have benefited from tremendously, and I'm sure that many people are looking forward to what Huawei has in store. Now, CS leads the Cloud and AI Business Group, so he oversees everything from cloud, intelligent computing, AI, data storage, and intelligent vision solutions. Their mission to support businesses with the right cloud and AI transformation solutions to build a fully connected, intelligent world. That's a big aspiration, and we're glad to be part of it. And of course, Mr. Chow Sang Ho, or more affectionately known as Mr. Chow, joins us today from one of the ministries in Putrajaya. Right, I will not name which one. Very important job for him to have to continue an hour from now. He is the EY ASEAN Consulting Leader. He oversees nearly 120 partners, and would you believe it, 4,000 consultants who I'm sure are having to work triply hard during this crisis across the 10 ASEAN states. He is the Malaysian Consulting Managing Partner for Ernst & Young Advisory Services, and Chow has more than 32 years of business consulting strategy transformation and is actively involved in making targeted acquisitions to bolster digital technology innovation and analytics capabilities across ASEAN. Now, Chow is an especially special guest today because he and his team have been right there in the trenches and the front lines with the Malaysian government, because all throughout the COVID pandemic, they have been manning and helping to man the fort at Laksana, which is the central command center that's overseeing all of our economic recovery programs. And of course, the Digital Malaysia vision for the Economic Action Council of Malaysia. So I'm super excited to hear the different points of view from our three speakers. Hopefully we're going to have a better understanding of where we're going to be within the next hour, but definitely where we want to be in the next 5 years. So without further ado, may I pass the screen or the stage to Puan Shukri, the CEO of MDEC.
Thank you very much, Datuk Faz. Good afternoon, everybody, and good morning, good evening to wherever you are. I'm really excited to be here. This year has been an unprecedented year, of course. Today is November 23rd, and we're getting close to the end of the year. But I want to open it up with a quick story. A story because this year it's 2020, and what's profound about 2020 is the fact that it begins a new decade. And so I take us back to December 28 when I was asked to record a video for a sales conference for one of the largest tech companies, multinational companies. If I say the name, everybody would know of it. But what was interesting about this video recording was that they gave me a script, and I want to share what this script actually says. This script basically says, welcome to 2020. Asia is the home to 2/3 of the world's population. Asia is the fastest growing region in the world. Asia is on track to top 50% of global GDP by 2040. And this is my favorite line. This is what the script says. And I didn't write this. So this is like a European tech company wrote this. This is the decade of the Asian century. Welcome to the new era, the era where Asia will lead the world. Wow. When I kicked off this year feeling super enthusiastic about the opportunities that we have ahead of us. And so especially the opportunities that we have within ASEAN. And so when you take a step back and you think about Asia, that I shared before, and you think about ASEAN itself, we've got a whole big opportunity ahead of us. ASEAN, if you didn't know, it's 1/3 of the world population. It's the 5th world largest GDP when you combine it all together. And when you talk about the digital economy in general, it's about 7% now, but it's estimated to be 1 trillion over the next 5 years by 2025. So certainly that's a growth opportunity over there. And certainly despite the challenges that we have with COVID has been a silver lining, and what we see in ASEAN, what we see in Malaysia is digital economy accelerated. So when we think about digital economy for Malaysia, of course, digital economy, you need the foundation of that is good infrastructure and good connectivity, which is something that we're working on. But in order to build a robust digital economy, we wholeheartedly believe that to do that and position Malaysia as the heart of digital ASEAN, it really boils down to 3 things. What is that? A robust digital economy requires digitally skilled Malaysians. And so we're very, very focused on making sure that everything from school curriculum to intervention programs to skilling programs, reskilling and upskilling, everybody's talking about that, and so are we. A robust digital economy also requires digitally powered businesses. And so today, it's really important to not just continue to make sure that the tech industry so the solution providers for all the digital solution providers thrive and are competitive regionally and globally, it's really, really important also to drive adoption, which is a core priority of ours, core focus of ours. And certainly what we see with the situation in Malaysia is that a lot of the companies now realize that digital is no longer an option, and they're no longer asking why, but there's a huge hunger for the how. How do we get digital? How do we make ourselves better, faster, cheaper? And how do we continue to compete on the global scale, be it a startup, an SME, or a scale up? And then finally, in order to continue to make sure that the economy continues to thrive, we really wholeheartedly believe that Malaysia presents an opportunity for investors to land and expand. And in this case, Malaysia continues to be open for business, and we continue to grow investments into the country. And from our standpoint, especially here at MDEC, we're quite focused on positioning the country as a global test bed for next gen technologies. Now, what does it mean really when we say to be the heart of digital ASEAN? For us, we really feel that given the geographic location, Malaysia presents an excellent center of interest to facilitate cross-border, cross-sector, cross-business partnerships and investments. Also an excellent foothold as a center of excellence, given the infrastructure and the resources that we have there. And of course, also to really start to position ourselves as a center of innovation. In this case, we're really quite focused on the tech agenda. One of the things that we've kicked off this year is the launch of the Digital Economy and 4IR Council that's chaired by the Prime Minister himself, demonstrating the commitment towards technology and innovation and making sure that we deliver shared prosperity by leveraging technology. And lastly, before I pass it on to my fellow colleagues here, just to recap where we are today. Today, Malaysia's digital economy accounts for, well, actually, this is a 2019 statistic. It's about 19.1% of overall GDP, but that number is growing rapidly, and we expect that the total contribution to our GDP is about a fifth of the overall. And we continue to focus on accelerating digital development, and particularly trying to move towards job creation. And so certainly this is the focus of this conversation. We welcome all sorts of investments into the country. And with that, I will pass it back on to you, Faz.
Thank you, Surina. So I think the wheels are getting lubricated, and the 5G connections are waiting to be rolled out. So let's hear from CS to share how Huawei sees the digital economy developing in Malaysia and the opportunities ahead. CS, I think you're on mute. So maybe if you can.
Sorry.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, very good afternoon, everyone. So I'm CS from Huawei. So I'm honored to be sharing the viewpoint from Huawei on how to position Malaysia as the ASEAN digital capitals. So, I mean, to Huawei, we are already putting Malaysia as the hub of our whole Asia Pacific region. So since 20 years back. So for Huawei Malaysia, after 20 years in Malaysia, so our vision is simple. We want to power Malaysia as the digital capital in ASEAN. So over the past 20 years, we have been contributing and building the ICT infrastructure for Malaysia. So we are proud to say that until now, we have been serving more than 80% of the Malaysian, whether it's you are connecting to your smartphone or you are connecting from your home or on the go. So a lot of new technology we have been brought up from our global R&D all the way to Malaysia. So that includes all the fixed line, and then from the mobile world, 3G, 4G, and very soon the 5G. And recently we also put up our infrastructures of cloud AI together with Telecom Malaysia. So the ICT infrastructure is, I think, is very important. So that is what we have been contributing, and we have been trying to make Malaysia ICT infrastructure one of the leaders in this region. So the second components that we want to develop is the talent. So for Huawei Malaysia, especially throughout this critical COVID-19 pandemics, so we had hired more than 300 new staff during the MCO period. So I think we are the largest company in Malaysia that we hired, but still hiring. So we hired more than 300 staff during this MCO period until now. So moving on, besides infrastructure and talents, we think that the ecosystem is very important, because not only that we are bringing some of the great practices from outside Malaysia, but more importantly is how to nurture the local company in Malaysia to go China and to go global. So recently we have also launched the Spark program together with MDEC and TM1. So for Huawei, we are already putting our Asia Pacific regional hub in Malaysia. So in Malaysia, we have it act as 11 global shared service centers. That means for Malaysian, it's not only work for the Malaysia region, but it work for the Asia Pacific. And a lot of the time, so some of the staff that we hired from Malaysia that actually work beyond Malaysia to Russia, Latin America, and in Europe. So over for the past 20 years in Malaysia, we are now having close more than 70% of our 2,400 employees that's working for Huawei. So moving on, we would like to share about how we see the importance of public and private sectors to work together. So for the past 20 years, it's starting from the very beginning of ADSL and all the way to the Unified. So, and the evolution of mobile industry from 3G, 4G, and upcoming 5Gs. So it all needs the strong policy support from the government. Without the government policies and encouragement, whether it's from incentive or from a policy perspective. So that is very important to accelerate the entire ICT infrastructure rollout in Malaysia. So with regard to this, so these are the 10 points that we think that is important from a strategy investment perspective to push forward the ICT infrastructures in Malaysia. So one of the first points that we want to highlight is to accelerate the 5Gs. So we come to know that the 5G is coming to Malaysia, but from an industry perspective and also the best practices from other countries, we wish that the 5G can come sooner to Malaysia. And second point I would like to highlight is that we have seen the Malaysian government has been encouraging cloud-first adoption. So that is a very good initiative that it will further drive the industry digitalization, especially moving forward to the industry 4.0. And not to forget, in order for us to inspire the Malaysian to be one of the leaders in the region, so we need to put a lot focus in terms of the innovation. So this is why we have worked with MDEC to launch the Spark program, because we want to innovate and also to nurture all the new startup company from Malaysia. And not to forget, we need to also doing a lot of upscaling and reskilling for all the Malaysian companies. So this is why this year we also launched our Huawei ASEAN Academy, and this is to support the students and those already on the society, the workers, to upskill and to reskill to face the current digital challenges. And all of this, definitely we need a very strong support from the government when it comes to policies. So one of the great examples is in this year, July, so we announced that Huawei going to work together with TM. We are building the only Malaysian-owned end-to-end cloud and AI infrastructures. So this will be the only Malaysian-owned hyperscaler cloud infrastructures in Malaysia. And this is very strategic in terms of it will best position as the Malaysia sovereignty cloud and to serve as the regional digital hub from a cloud perspective. And this locally brand called Alpha Edge is now ready for services. So we have completed this infrastructure in a very short of 3 months' time. So that is actually breaking one of the world record of the fastest rollout of cloud and AI infrastructures in one particular region. So next, moving on, I would like to share with you a few ideas from Huawei perspective. So we strongly believe that Malaysia is in a very strategic location to serve as ASEAN digital capitals. So looking at the already strong of industry capabilities, so this can leverage from a multi-dimension capabilities of our domestic manufacturing practices, such as our leading car manufacturer Puan, and also the world largest hand glove manufacturer Top Glove. And for Malaysia, because we are a multicultural and multi-languages, so I think we have that advantages in terms of the creative content. So in summarize, we think that Malaysia can well position within our ASEAN region as a digital infrastructure hub, because Malaysia now we have with a TM locally owned and branded cloud and AI infrastructures. So, and with the coming 5G, so Malaysia has a good position to spearheading the 5G plus cloud plus AI innovation when it comes to industrial application. So this will be the first in our ASEAN region to facilitate that kind of innovation, especially together with the cloud first policy. So secondly, Malaysia is also very well positioned as a digital talent hub, as explained by Puan Surina just now. So we have a plan that together with TM and also many of the industry players, so we plan to train at least more than 3,000 of the experts when it comes to cloud and AI knowledges. And when it comes to cope with the infrastructure of 5G, cloud, and AI, so we will able to nurture talents that is unique in this domain. Lastly, and very importantly, is how Malaysia can position as a digital ecosystem hub. So we think that Malaysia is very well positioned. It can be a ASEAN startup hub, and it can be an ASEAN Islamic hub, as well as ASEAN AI hub. So these are the three regional hubs that from Huawei perspective, we think that Malaysia is very well positioned on it. And for Huawei, that has been already putting Malaysia as our Asia Pacific hub. So we will definitely support the government, the Malaysian government, and the industry to empowering we in Malaysia as ASEAN digital capital, and especially moving forward as a leader in the industry 4.0 transformation. So that's all for the information that we share from my side.
Thank you very much, CS. So Chow, you heard it from Surina. She says it's about digitally skilled Malaysians, digitally powered businesses, and driving those digital investments. And CS said the opportunities are there, right? With the new technologies, with 5G, with what's coming in the fourth IR, but all of this has to be supported by a very conducive policy environment by the government. So could you share with us from a high level view, from the government's view, and of course, we're very excited to have this new National Digital Economy and Fourth IR Council. How does all of that fit into this Digital Malaysia vision?
Absolutely, Dato' Faz. Thank you so much. You know, what was really interesting was the vision that Puan Surina painted. I remember one very wise person said, without vision, people perish. So yeah, sometimes it's difficult maybe for us in COVID-19 think about, wow, what is Puan Surina envisioning for us? You know, it's so far away because we are at a problem at this time. We've got a problem to face. But to me, having a vision to take the country forward is so important. So well done, MDEC, for that. The first part I'd like to cover, based on your point, Faz, and it's very aligned to Chee Siong's point. So maybe Chee Siong, you stole my slide, so I won't cover too much. But the point is, for the heart of digital ASEAN to work, from our point of view, there are 5 areas, right? One is the infrastructure. I think Chee Siong mentioned a lot about that just now, and we did speak about that as we're preparing for this session, how important infrastructure is. We cannot take that for granted. The other one that we really think Malaysia has a very strong possibility to position ourselves is digital security. In fact, this morning we had a kickoff project with Bank Negara to review their whole cybersecurity infrastructure, people, skills and talent. So really, I think we have got a time and space for us to really position and strengthen this. Talent, I think I totally agree with Siong. We've got a multi-language, multi-religion, and therefore we are much more what we call adaptive compared to some of our neighboring countries. So therefore a differentiation for us. Ecosystem without doubt and digital economy. But if you don't mind, I think much more important to me is why I think as a Malaysian and as you introduced just now, Dato' Faz, I cover ASEAN, 10 countries from Philippines, Vietnam down to Indonesia. And I look across ASEAN, I said to myself, why do I think that the vision painted by Puan Surina can be a reality? Because of the strength, as you can see on the left-hand side. We do have strong foundation infrastructure. The quality is there. Yes, we can improve. Yes, we can do better. But, we've got the foundation there. We do have cost advantage. We do have strategic location. Quite central. I think if you talk about, say, either Philippines or Myanmar, Indonesia, it's not as central. And I know that because the last 5 years I've been running ASEAN and try every year when we try to organize a ASEAN conference for our consultants, 4,000 consultants, where do you go? Unfortunately, I have to be Malaysia because strategic location and cost-wise, right? The other one is about our natural resources. I spoke about talent. But one which is very important to me is the domestic demand. As pointed out by Puan Surina, about 20% of our economy is digital economy. I think, and the growth is about 7%, I think this year the growth will be higher because of COVID-19. And I think with the vision that we have, we can actually double the growth easily. And if you talk about doubling the growth of digital economy, that's what, 14%, 15%, as compared to normal natural economy growth is 4 or 5%. So tremendous growth and potential. But I also do believe there are certain things that we need to differentiate. I want to pick on some points that CS mentioned just now, because to build on what he said just now, he mentioned about AI, Islamic, and talent. So on the right-hand side, I've got about 10 areas that we think in EY, we probably need to differentiate ourselves. The top half are what I call the generic ones. The bottom half are more sector-specific. The top half, for one, develop industry platform for internet. So rather than consumer-based, when we presented this and shared this with EPU and MITI, they already shared that they are already working on this, so it's very good. We spoke about innovation, we spoke about unicorns, and I was so glad, actually, Dato' Faz, in the recent budget, of course, the voting on it is this Thursday, but I could see the leading up to the budget and the budget itself, there's so much allocation for this. Digital Capital, for example, is doing a drive in this, so it's good. Digital security, I mentioned. I think that's an area many countries are struggling with. We could take the mantle and lead that to talk about policies, to talk about best practices. The other one is digital trade, meaning combining both services and the commerce together. And then the other one, of course, the talent about diversity. If you don't mind, I want to take on now the bottom half, which is more around the sector specialization. Number one, definitely, I agree with you, CS, about Islamic finance, fintech. We are already a leader in Islamic financial capital market. How do we now capitalize on that and build a fintech to it? I understand we've got about 29, 30 Islamic fintechs in Malaysia. That's a great place to start. The other one is the IR 4.0. I think your point about Proton and Top Glove is definitely places that we should begin with. The second and third one, the third and fourth one is what MDEC is already working on, championing about digital content. And the other one is global business services. You're already doing well. So I think that's those are areas that we can, again, specialize and position Malaysia. Last but not least, I really want to spend a minute more on this global tech test bed. So we can see that a lot more innovation. I think you spoke about it, CS. But what I found is that perhaps testing infrastructure, sandboxes, maybe this is a place that we can really differentiate. We haven't seen that here in ASEAN. It's a place that we can pull that together. To me, there's a real attraction. Back to your point, Puan Surina, about center of interest, bringing partnership together, bringing innovation together. I think the global tech test bed is definitely one of them. Maybe the last slide, Dr. Faz, if you don't mind. So this is the implementation slide. And this back to your point about digital and IR 4.0 council chaired by the Prime Minister. It would be ideal if the council pushed for the implementation along this line. The first one, the first level, there are a number of existing plans already. To me, is no more additional plans, but executing them. The other one is prioritizing 5 areas. I think you spoke about that, CS, accelerating 5G. To me, I think Jendela has a very good plan. And Jendela talked about 5G coming on stream in 2022. So I think that's good. But what I think we need is to accelerate some of the innovation. So perhaps something like what Thailand has, a development committee for 5G. Start it now, don't start it later, because innovation, you've got to keep on tapping on it. Cloud first, I think, CS, you mentioned that. The value chain, the security, and differentiation that I spoke about, just the 5 differentiation around sectors. But what I also really believe, and I truly believe in this here in Malaysia, a dedicated program management office, because we need to really align, communicate, and really track the execution. I think we've got a lot of plans already. So now it's just getting it done one at a time, and don't stop until we get to the vision. Like the word says, without vision, people perishes. Back to you, Dato' Fazli.
Thank you so much for the trial, and thank you, CS and Surina, for those great opening statements. I think it gives us a very good base to work off for our Q&A section now, right? I like how Chow ended his thing. He says, it's about getting it done one at a time, because now we share this vision of where we want to be. But if you bring it back into the scope of ASEAN, maybe I can start with you, Surina, right? What do you think of the aspiration, especially when I'm sure many other ASEAN countries are aiming for the same or similar goals? We talk about differentiation a bit, but what else apart from differentiation are your comments on the aspiration itself? Surina, I think you're muted, so could you unmute?
Yeah, so apologize. So first and foremost, I would say I really don't think that this is a winner takes all kind of situation. I really do think that the opportunity for ASEAN really is collaboration and cooperation amongst the entire region. And certainly for us, in Malaysia, that I think is certainly a differentiator for us. And the reason why I say that is because we've got quite flexible government policies, a friendly business environment that really promotes cross business partnerships. Like take, for example, RCEP that was just signed, was it last week or the week before? That was an example of years and years of discussions and really hard work that many of us has put together to really put in place. And that's just an example of what we're starting with. I think in terms of differentiators, both Chow and CS covered that. And for us, I really do think that the whole reason what makes Malaysia attractive is the fact that we have a little bit of everything. And so if you are a company and if you're a tech company in particular, and you're looking for a place that's conducive to test your product, we've got a ready handy consumer base, a consumer base that's actually growing really fast. This year, for example, I mean, from a consumer standpoint, it's 5 years of digitalization crammed into 1 year in terms of the number of new consumers that were onboarded onto online basically. So I think that yes, competition is intense, and I really do think that it ultimately boils down to of course talent, which we have a very young population, but it ultimately boils down to execution. And I feel quite comforted with the momentum that's building up, all the collaboration that we have in place. I think that this Digital Economy and 4IR Council is big. And then certainly what Mr. Chow talked about just now, the project management aspect of things, those are all things that we're really set up to take on. We're taking it on now, and we're certainly going to be taking it on in the following years. I mean, just look at us at MDEC. We just announced a major reinvention of ourselves because we believe that we can't stand still either. And so we need to make sure that everything from the board is fully aligned in terms of this new need to execute, and the organization itself, so that we also are able to execute in this era where everybody is required to innovate, because you need to do more with less in half the time.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Surina. I love the statement just now about like we have the talent and it's all about the execution. I'm going to come back to that. So maybe a bit of a heads up for you, yes, I'm going to touch on that a little bit from Huawei's perspective. But Chow, Surina also mentioned on what we should expect in terms of impact to our local economy and the situation, and also maybe if you can touch on other geopolitical events that we should keep in mind, and how investors should maybe read those.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody's watching, right? With the election on November 3rd. So we know the results, but I know the existing or the current outgoing president is challenging that. So depends, right? But and everybody's watching whether Joe Biden will take over. So and also people are watching how that will affect that relationship between US and China. To me, whether the tide is going to go back to more cohesive relationship or they will continue with the Donald Trump's approach, I think it already set in place the direction, and the direction where a lot of multinationals organizations are coming to us in ASEAN is they want to diversify out of China, not because of just that relationship, but also to make sure there is a better management of their geopolitical situation. So that's number one. And the other to me very important fast is with COVID-19. With the new normal, things have changed, and one of the things that biggest change is the supply chain management. To build resilience into supply chain, they will no longer, unfortunately, be centralized all their production in one place. They're going to stop. A lot of organizations are going to stop that because it's just too high risk. What if another COVID happens? What if? So I'm seeing a lot more organizations coming to ASEAN, especially in Vietnam, in Indonesia, in Malaysia, to look at diversifying their production house. So that to me runs well. And back to RECP. RECP is going to take us to about 30% of GDP, 1.7 trillion people, right? Because this is really huge. And what I think the benefit for Malaysia, it enables trade and facilitation of economic activities. What is a better time for us to capitalize on these three themes about China-US relationship, about COVID-19 new norm, and RECP? I think if you talk about the wave, it's about the perfect wave for us. My only concern, if you ask me, is we do not capitalize on it. To me, I think capitalizing on it and moving fast on it is critical. Dato' Fah.
Thank you, Chow. Thank you. So CS, I want to segue from that to that point as well made, right? The talent, because it sounds like you said you've been hiring through the pandemic, right? Hiring Malaysians, and Malaysians are doing work for you beyond the Malaysian market itself. So when we talk about some of these new technologies, whether it's 5G, AI, and cloud, and positioning Malaysia as a heart of digital ASEAN, the other part of talent is actually the adoption side itself. So, maybe could you comment on the kind of talent that we have for the supply side, the kind of guys that we work in firms such as Huawei, but also what kind of talent and skills do companies like Huawei hope to see on the adoption side, the businesses that actually start using these technologies? What's important there?
Yeah, so I'll comment on the talent side. I mean, what people don't realize is that we do actually have talent over here. I think that sometimes the effort that we do to promote it is not as robust. And that's something that MDEC's been very focused on to help with that. For example, just talking about talent, many people don't know this. So when you think about a company like Grab, for example, the core engineering team, the founding engineering team was actually all graduates from Multimedia University based right here in Cyberjaya. So that's just one example. And we've got universities, and MDEC has been working with some of the top universities, and we've got these premier digital tech institutions that these graduates from here get snapped up almost immediately after graduation. The other thing that we're doing also as far as talent is concerned is is to look also at alternative way of fast tracking supply talent. And so for example, when you think about a regular computer science program, it's a 4-year degree, but we've been working closely with some of the disruptors that are out there. So for example, we're very proud to announce that earlier this year, Ecole 42, so which is a alternative software development school program. It's free, a very, very unique way of delivering developing talent, opened its doors. And so now we have KL 42. And we announced that in the spring, I guess that's in May. And the first cohort is going through that right now. And there have been conversations already that the school has had with multiple parties to expand that further. And so the other thing also, when we think about talent, we think about the pipeline as well. So I have, one of the programs that MDEC runs is this thing called Digital Ninjas. And so we have this, so this is really high school kids, and they're able to compete at the world level and and win. And so there is, the talent is here. And what we're focused on, when we talk about war for talent, everybody, even if you're in Silicon Valley even says, oh, there's not enough talent over here. And so it's certainly the same over here. And what we're trying to do now, we're all focused on scaling that. So everything from working with the private sector, like Huawei, with all its different academies. And so we're all lockstep in advancing the talent development agenda. Another example, in the recent budget 2021 that was announced, of course, we've got our year cut out for us next year. The government has actually allocated 100 million to MDEC alone for reskilling activities. And this is above and beyond the billions that they have via HRDF for broader talent development, for the talent development agenda.
Surina, which gives me a great opportunity to ask something that just came out in the Q&A. Does one have to be an MSc status company to take advantage of all these programs? I know Huawei is, and we're so grateful that you are, but
not at all. So I was going to say not at all. The MSc status really is really to benefit the companies as they make an investment decision as an extra incentive to come and set up shop in Malaysia. So MSc status gives along with you some tax incentives, but more importantly, the ability to bring in foreign knowledge workers from abroad. But most of the things, so we at MDEC, we believe the more the merrier. So our programs are really open to all companies that are out there.
Absolutely. If I may add, I think MDEC has recently launched a program called MDEC DX, and that's really good to help organizations. What I found working with Malaysian SMEs is that they have this question, right? Oh, okay, I want to go on board to digital, but where do I begin? What do I do? How do I do it? So I thought the DX portal that you're developing is really, really good. It helps to guide SMEs to do that. And you're right. I don't think people need to be SME, MSc status to get access to that.
Yeah. So the whole idea, because this is one of the questions, it was the first question actually that came from the Q&A. What are some of the MDEC programs to empower local SMEs in terms of this? One of this is DX. So DX stands for Digital Accelerator. And the whole idea there is that we're trying to actually make it easier for companies to understand, because most of the time SMEs, especially like Uncle SME, this topic is overwhelming. So you don't even know where to start. So DX is our way to curate that journey, if you will, and match solutions and training depending on where you are in your overall digital journey. So you could be an SME, a micro SME that is going online for the first time, and we'll direct you to the right programming and also benefits that are out there. Or you could be a more mature, medium-sized SMEs that's really trying to think about, what does AI mean? And so we'll guide you and direct you to the appropriate resources that are available, not just from MDEC, but from the other partners that are out there, including both the public sector, from the government, and the private sector as well. So it's trying to simplify the digitalization experience, if you will.
Great. CS, question for you.
Yep.
Now, the cycle of ideation, R&D, prototyping, and commercialization, it can be a very long cycle, right?
Yep.
And in this very fast-moving digital world, what's your opinion on either creating or acquiring these new technologies after they're going through this initial cycle and getting it ready for commercialization? Why do it in a country like Malaysia as a hub for scaling into ASEAN?
Yeah. So to answer that question, we need to look at where is the ICT industry going to. So the ICT industry is going to form a so-called future intelligent world, and that intelligent world, the most important is the ICT infrastructures, and that ICT infrastructure, it will be formalized very soon is the 5G technologies, because 5G is a next generation technology that is very different than today 4G. Much higher speed, much lower latency, and to connect millions of devices all together. So with that new era, so it will arise new use case, new business model, and definitely a lot of new companies. So today we see tension, we see Alibaba from the OTT side. They arise coming from when 4G internet, consumerized internet has been booming. So the arise of new batch of a lot of these new OTT players. But when it comes to 5G, 5G is not about consumer, it's about industry. So it's all the legacy industry that will undergo major digital transformation. So for them to address transformation, where are the solutions? Who can provide that solution? So that market space will definitely need a lot of new startup, new company to fill the gap. So this is where the billions-dollar market, and it's a new market that will arrive when 5G come into the world. And when 5G come into the Malaysia, and that is the major business and gap that we need to fill from the solution perspective and also from talent perspective. So this is where when 5G come into Malaysia, I fully agree what Mr. Chow said just now. Yes, real commercial network maybe 2022, but innovation and preparation should start now. We should start prepare from talent and solution perspective. When things are booming, when RCEP is signed, are we ready to export our Malaysia 5G solution, Malaysia 5G enabled company to the ASEAN region? So that is the golden time frame that we should start doing now. So that is only about 5G. And we have the cloud technologies and the AI technologies that will coming from a different angle to disrupt again the industry. So with that, there are so many use cases that can be arise. So very simple. I mean, we've been talking about autonomous driving. It has been talking about for past 5 to 10 years, but it will already come into reality when 5G is there, when all our control of the vehicles done by the cloud, and that AI enables the intelligent part of it that you can sleep in the car, so that the car will it has that intelligence to drive you back to home safely. All these need the 5G network, the cloud, and the AI capabilities. But autonomous driving is just one general use cases. So we can apply the multiply of 5G, cloud, and AI into many cases. So all these use cases, we need to test it. That's why Malaysia can be a test bed for all these multiple technology and apply into the industry. So just now, Dr. Faz asked about what sort of talent do we need? We need the talents that know how to gel different technology into application.
Mm.
So if we have that, we will definitely lead in this region. And
That's
that
right.
part of talent, even for Huawei, we can't find. Our founder, Mr. Ernst, said that Huawei moving into the next 10 years, we need one type of talent. It's how to gel 5G, cloud, AI, IoT all together and apply into the industrial. Not the consumer, but the industrial. And that is the talent that Huawei company wants. So we hope that in Malaysia, every year we hire more than 300 staff. 10% out of this 300 can do this job.
Yeah.
And that is a great contribution.
Yeah, I think that the name of the game in the future is really it's the innovation part of it, because the tech part, there's so much tech that's out there. Really, it's all about applying it.
Yeah.
And so that's really the kind of talent that we need. It's applying the technology. And I think that this is one area that the youth do quite well, actually. You know, when you look at the way that you know they pick up different kinds of applications and try and apply that. And so but it's certainly an area that we need to cultivate and drive more of.
Yeah, I love how you put it, CS. You know, we shouldn't wait for when 5G is commercially rolled out, right? By then, if you factor in this whole innovation cycle that you have, today is the day to start. And the concept that Chow introduces now, the global tech test bed, I think that's what a lot of the international investors and innovators should be looking at in Malaysia. Test it out with this test bed concept for the next couple of years in Malaysia, so that when 5G hits the shelf, metaphorically, everything's already out there, and you know, we can start rolling out very quickly. Now, Chow, I want to take it to you, back to you now. If I were a foreign company and I'm looking at this strategy that we're talking about today, you know, Malaysia as the hub for ASEAN, how do I balance the risk of talent duplications of having multiple sites versus the, like you said just now, the cost leading, you know, the cost factor versus reducing the risk of operating in just one place?
I give you some examples of our own clients, right? New York company, American owned, focus on the American market in financial market, but their R&D team, their technical team are here in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, based in Mid Valley. There's another client, similar infrastructure, based in Cyberjaya. So to me, it's not, and with digital today, Datuk Faz, I don't think one has to duplicate. One actually should use digital to connect more seamlessly. And in fact, to me, the connection is not just within the organization, but also with external parties. So we create ecosystem. So my thought is, if anyone wants to, as an MNC, wants to come to Malaysia to kind of invest in this, it's really about the talent place. And I like that idea. In fact, if you don't mind, I'd like to volunteer CS and Puan Surina for us to come out and work with you on a concept paper for this global tech test bed, because we really believe that's the opportunity. So back to your example, Datuk Faz, right? So if an MNC is really interested with this test bed, why? Because number one, Malaysia have the infrastructure, Malaysian talent can do that, the talent that CS mentioned, that people can not just look at technology, but can apply or think about application with technology. And here is where the cost competitiveness. So they will want to come. So to me, that is the differentiation. So it's not about duplicating resources. In fact, locating the resources here. But you know what? They work here. They get paid. Hopefully, you know, US pay. You know, so we got better income for the people. Yeah. But really having a centralized place for that. You know, that's my view.
Yeah, so I want to pick up on that, because just to share an example to really ground it and make it real, I want to talk for a second about drone tech. So this is one where, you know, this is a technology that's new, it leverages a lot of the new 4IR technology, but really in order to make it, but it's still early days in terms of how do you really continue to scale and commercialize that. And so you know, pre-COVID, we were having advanced discussions with certain companies. I won't disclose the name, but to test the technology and delivery systems in Johor, and this is an effort where it required both physical and you know, understanding of the mechanics of that, But what made it interesting also is from a talent standpoint, there are many, many universities and also vocational schools that are providing drone-specific programming already. So we've already started with that. And to add a little extra to further on that, one of the things that was announced via the Penjana, the Economic Recovery Plan, was the National Technology Innovation Sandbox. So this is like a dedicated effort to accelerate regulatory conversations, and in which drone is particularly pertinent. And like we got the appropriate regulators involved in the conversation to carry on the dialogue as it relates to drone technology. So that's one where, you know, you've got all because to really make new technologies work, it's not about just tax incentives. It's not about, it's really about putting it all together. And that's what we're trying to do here in Malaysia.
Really well put, Surina. And I think there's a lot that investors can look forward to, international can look forward to in this global testbed approach. CS, I want to end with a question for you. This was originally a question I had, planned for the government side of things to answer, but it'd be very interesting to see the point of view from the private sector. Now, it's always this constant battle between attracting foreign direct investments and building local industries, right? So how do you see Malaysia, or maybe in conjunction with a company like Huawei, how do we balance both of these objectives? FDI and also the local interests of local industries.
Yeah. So if you look at from an industrial ecosystem perspective, so when the cloud is ready, so it will getting much easier for the innovation to become an apps or software over a standard platform. Because in the early days without the cloud, all IT are silos. So if you in Malaysia, you set up a company, you create a software application. If you want to sell your software, it's all through traditional sales and marketing. And most of the time, you are confined to Malaysia region, unless you take a flight to another country and start to knock other people's door to sell it. Because there's no standard marketplace or platform for you to easily sell beyond Malaysia. But now, because of cloud become very common, so there are so many marketplaces that is there, and also the e-commerce. So you can easily sell your software. So with that industry trend in mind, so it's important that it's now the right time for Malaysia SME to start to innovate the product over the cloud marketplace. So, and with this, actually, we are working now already with MDEC, SME Corp, PCOM, and so on, to facilitate like a local e-service hub, so that the local SME product can actually not only serve in the Malaysian markets easily, and also to serve beyond Malaysia to other countries. So I think that is, I think we should highlight that. Yes, foreign investment is important. We attract them to doing business here, but more importantly, from a holistic view perspective, is about how many Malaysian product, how many Malaysian innovation that will be coming out from the domestic market, because to balance out so that our digital economy is growing. So we need to really focus about the local innovation. So this is why when we carry out SME program in Malaysia, we are not just bringing any software product from China. We encourage local SME for SME. So this SME, they have a problem. So who's going to solve that problem? It should be another SME that solve this SME problem. So it's a SME for the SME. So this is why then we will activate the supply and the demand both in Malaysia. Yeah, that's the viewpoint from my side.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Seth. And I think that was really well put, right? A big giant like a Huawei can come and play in a global testbed that is Malaysia, provide that platform that can enable our, as put it, SMEs to solve other SME problems, use this international platform so that they can scale this out across the region. And that's all time we have left. I just want to leave everybody on this one note. As 5G comes out, as CS said, let's not wait for the next 2 years. I need the innovations to happen now so that I have better coverage, because I do apologize personally in advance if the connection from my side was a bit jittery, but that's something I'm hoping an SME out there is going to solve on top of one of these platforms that the big tech giants are rolling out. So I want to thank Surina, Chow, and CS for making time today. I hope many of you who have tuned in have really learned a lot for the past hour, and we encourage a lot of you to look up Global Testbed, come to Malaysia, and have a great rest of the week. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you to the moderator and speakers for such an energizing discussion, as well as to the audience for tuning in. We'll now be moving forward to our next session, and it will be beginning shortly. Click to join the session. Stay tuned.